Welcome to Hot Shot Sports. We have a lot to talk about today. We got some Packers, Bucks, Badgers, college football, NBA, and NFL. We'll be right back with all that right after this. All right, so we got a lot to talk about, not a lot of time, so we're going to jump right into it with the Packers. They just had a game over the weekend. I'm sure we all have some opinions on that, so what do you guys think?
I'll start. I was very impressed by the game the Packers played on Sunday night. Going into the game, I predicted a 45-3 loss, so it was a little different. Huntley played really well. The only thing I really have to knock him on is the 4 sacks that he took, especially in some crucial situations. I think that he needs to shore that up. But otherwise, Packers scored the most points against the Steelers this year, besides the Jaguars. But the Jaguars had 2 pick sixes, so we were the best offensive team against the Steelers this year. They've only allowed 17.5 points a game, so just put 28 up on them with what seemed like a struggling offense of Brett Hundley. Very impressive.
Oh, definitely. I was impressed with him too. You know, I didn't predict it to be a 45-3 loss, but I was definitely thinking that it was going to be. I think I said 34-7 is what I said it was going to be. Just because with that offensive power of the Steelers, just racking up points with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, who did play very well. I think I was very impressed with Hundley as well. You saw him kind of take some steps into the pocket, but when he does take those sacks, it definitely is that immaturity that he has, just not to throw the ball away. But I was impressed with them that they did keep it to a 3-point game.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you guys. I was very impressed overall with the game. It's pretty much came down to Hundley and Jamal Williams against Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell, and most of us would say that wasn't going to be a very close matchup. The fact that it even was close, I was very impressed with that. I was more mad at the end of the game when it was all tied up that we didn't realize that they were going to throw to Antonio Brown both those times, especially if we blitz. I thought the double coverage would have been there a little bit quicker, but that's why he's one of the best receivers in the league.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, him one-on-one is going to destroy you anytime. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you all said, I think Hundley proved himself this game. He had a lot of haters, I think, coming here. Kind of shut them up in this way. One thing I think needs to happen is their defense needs to step up a little bit, especially with the pass defense. Of all their touchdowns being allowed since Rodgers went out, only one of them has been a rushing touchdown. So their passing defense needs to improve. So what do you guys think the Packers need to do going forward now?
I think that getting King from Washington was a great start. He got hurt a little bit, so he's a little bit banged up and had to go against Antonio Brown earlier in the game. But I think that getting him is a great pickup, and I think that's what they just have to continue to do, is just continue to replace that secondary, but definitely keep people and let them age in the NFL. Because I think too quickly we see teams bring in a rookie, they don't do so hot, and they get rid of them.
I completely agree. I think we've already brought in the young guys. Like you said, Kevin King, I think, is definitely our bright spot in the secondary. At this point, it's pretty much just waiting for them to get that experience and get that confidence out there, because at that point, they're going to be good in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to be talking college football playoffs. Season kind of coming toward the end here. I've seen some rankings. I've seen Badgers now ranked, and I think AP now they ranks them 3rd.
I believe so.
So what do you guys think about these college football playoffs coming up?
Well, right now, rankings come out tonight for the college football playoff, and I predict it to be Clemson, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Auburn, and then Alabama and Georgia at 5 and 6. I don't really know where they'll put Wisconsin, Auburn. I think they'll possibly switch those two. But I think, for the most part, I think the college football playoff is going to be pretty much set. I think Clemson will win. I think Oklahoma will win. As a Wisconsin fan, I have to think they will win. And I believe Auburn will beat Georgia. So I think if those 4 end up being in the playoff right now with the rankings, then I think that's what it'll end up to be. I think all 4 of them will win their conference championship.
I completely agree. I think it's going to be Clemson, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Wisconsin as well. It's kind of hard to see Bama not being in the playoff like they are every single year and only with one loss right now. But the way Wisconsin's undefeated, really haven't won a close game, I should say, won a close game, and then having Auburn just take out the #1 team and then possibly be able to beat Georgia in the championship. I think that's definitely going to be the way it's going to play out so far.
See, I think Clemson's at #1 spot locked up. I actually think that the committee is probably going to move Auburn up to #2. The reason being is that they have beaten 2 #1 teams. They beat Alabama, who everyone wants to lose. When Alabama loses, we win. But then they also beat Georgia as well. So I think they have 2 big wins under their belt. Their 2 losses are to a ranked #18 LSU team right now, and then the top-ranked Clemson team, and Clemson was #3. So they have some good losses and some great wins. I definitely think that Oklahoma is going to be in there. Really want to see Baker Mayfield, and then. The Wisconsin and Alabama thing is going to be really tough because I think it's going to be one of those two. And if you look at, you have to put Wisconsin in there. They're undefeated, and I think you've shown that even Miami you couldn't handle Pittsburgh on the road. So but Wisconsin able to handle all of their teams. So it's going to be Wisconsin or Alabama, but I think you have to put Wisconsin in there.
Yeah,
I agree. I think, especially Wisconsin being undefeated, no matter what their schedule is like, you can't knock them for having an easy schedule. If they go undefeated, you got to put them in. The only questionable thing is where Auburn's going to end up. I think is whether they're going to move them up above to maybe 2, like you were saying, or down or at 4 maybe. So I think that's the only questionable thing about those. Well, let's talk specifically Badgers now. How their season has been.
Well, you just mentioned how weak their schedule has been, but honestly, down the stretch, their schedule has. Their strength of schedule has vastly improved. Northwestern is now a top 20 team. They beat Michigan, who, is no slouch, the top 3 defense in the country. They beat Iowa, who put up 55 at Ohio State. And now they have a chance to beat Ohio State. There's 4 pretty quality wins right there. And honestly, they probably have a better resume than Alabama does. So with that debate there, I think Wisconsin wins that. But I've just been impressed with the Badgers' defense all year. It's been absolutely incredible. They lost their best linebacker, Jack Sitchie, at the beginning of the year, right before the first game. So, to be the second in the nation, only 12 points given up a game, very, very impressive.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's carrying their team. When you give up 12 points a game, that's all you give up. You all have to do is 2 scores. And with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, a Heisman candidate, it's kind of hard to lose games. But I definitely agree with you on that. Is they've just been getting it done down the stretch too. They've been getting it done, and it has looked better for them with their schedule being better. I think that the Badgers, with that defense, have a great chance of going far in the college football playoffs and potentially to the national championship game. The only knock that I have on the Badgers and that I have had for the past few years is that quarterback situation. It's just kind of hard, if you can stop that run of Jonathan Taylor and you make Hornibrook throw the ball against a better team, I just don't know how well that's going to bid for them.
I also agree with that. I think the Badgers pretty much have the best defense in the country, without a doubt. And then offensive line, best in the country. Running back, Heisman finalist. Like you said, though, it comes down to that quarterback. Can Alex Hornibrook actually make the plays when we need him to? Yeah. He looked great last week, but when you're playing at Clemson, when you're playing at Auburn, Alabama possibly, it's going to be hard to not make those mistakes, I should say. So it'll be interesting.
Biggest thing about Hornibrook is he's kind of inconsistent. Some days he's great, some days he throws 5 picks.
Exactly.
So one thing I know Jordan mentioned a little bit. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor and the season that he's having. Some put him as a Heisman candidate, even.
Definitely.
I have him just outside of the top 4. I have him at number 5. I don't necessarily think he'll be invited to New York for the Heisman presentation, but oh man, incredible year so far, and I think he'll be in that Heisman conversation the next 3 years of his career for sure.
And he's a true freshman, right? He is.
Yes.
Yes. I think putting up numbers like that is just extremely impressive. You can come in to the college football world in a Power 5 conference in the Big Ten, which, like you said, Michigan again, one of the top 3 defense in the nation, and just dominate teams like that. I think he should be invited, but I know that the college football committee also has him. I think at number 5 as well.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I think with the Heisman, you kind of have to give it to Baker right now, but at the same time, I do think that Jonathan Taylor has a good shot to be invited to New York.
Yep.
Let's hope. All right, so we're going to move on to our next topic. We'll be talking NBA now. So right now, our home team, Bucks, they are ranked 10th in the East at 9-9. So what do you guys think about their season?
Extremely underwhelming. Defense has given up 105 points per game. That's just not acceptable. Giannis, he's doing everything that he can to lead this team, but injuries have also kind of derailed them. Giannis has missed a few games. Henson was just out. Teletovic and Dellavedova have been out for many, many games. So I think that's a little so their record's a little skewed by that. But they need to pick it up, and I think Jason Kidd needs to kind of light a fire underneath them.
I completely agree, but the thing with that, I think Eric Bledsoe and the new addition of Eric Bledsoe is something that's going to take a little bit of time to get everyone acclimated with the chemistry and everything like that. And I also feel like Jabari Parker still not being there. Once he gets back, I think that's really going to see what the Bucks are made of. It's kind of hard to tell right now with Giannis doing a lot of the work. When you bring Jabari in, that second offensive scorer, to give you 20 points a game, I think the Bucks look a lot different. So I'm just kind of waiting on right now and seeing how we can do without him.
I think Jabari too is just such a versatile player, as we've seen him when he is in the game. He's a scorer. He can handle the ball as well, and also a pretty good defensive player. But I think right now with the Bucks at 9-9, a lot of people miss that because you have Giannis in there, so he's so much fun to watch that I guess like you don't really see what their record is like, and you look and then you're at 500. So especially myself too, sometimes if I go 2 or 3 games without watching them, I'll come back and see that they're 500, just below 500, and I think that they're higher because Giannis just does play at such a high level. And then even, too, they do have a great team. Like I said, Bledsoe, I think, is definitely going to help a lot. He's a great point guard. He'll just the ball to him. I think that, too, he just kind of has that winning mentality. But then also Malcolm Brogdon is a fantastic defensive player. Can also put up some good points as well.
100%.
I too think we do get distracted by Giannis a lot, but we don't realize the team needs to support Giannis at times. He can't be leading the team every game. That seems like their key to winning is, I think, their bench players. They need to increase their bench. But I think that's all the time we have for NBA and the Bucks. We're gonna take a look at some pets that need some homes at the Cooley Region Humane Society with this week's edition of Perfect Pets.
Hi, I'm Copper. I'm a down-to-earth 7-year-old coonhound. I'm a sucker for a relaxing walk in the outdoors, but I'd also love just hanging out with my parents at home.
Yippee! We're Hannah and Emily, 2 12-week lab mixes ready for a playful home.
My sister and I are full of energy. We're both troublemakers and love making mischief.
Hi, I'm Nazca. I'm a pensive 4-month-old kitty that can be nervous at first, but really just a curious little kitten.
Oh, hey there! This is Mama Kitty here. And I'm just a friendly feline, and I'm looking for a forever home.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, that number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. So before the break, we were talking about NBA. Let's get into some awards now, starting off with the NBA MVP. Well, who's your early frontrunners for that award?
Right now, I think there's only 3 guys that will even have a chance at the MVP at the end of the year, which is James Harden, LeBron, and Giannis. Right now, I'm sure the voters will say it's James Harden, but in my opinion, it's hands down LeBron. It's always LeBron. Every year, he's the most valuable player. If we're actually talking about most valuable, you take LeBron off that team, and I don't know if they're winning more than 5 games yet. So right now, the voters will say it's Harden, but I think if we're talking about most valuable, it's definitely LeBron.
And so I have James Harden too. James Harden has been averaging 31.7 a game with 9.8 assists, and he's shooting just over 40% from behind the arc. But I'm so happy you said that about LeBron, because everybody has this conversation. I've had it with multiple people, and it is LeBron. I mean, you see every team that he goes to is great. It's great, goes to the finals, and I think that, if you take him off the court, the plus-minus is just terrible overall in his career. So I definitely think that LeBron probably should deserve it, but right now, my front runner at James Harden.
I agree with you guys. I think LeBron probably should get it right now, but at the same time, James Harden, is he every year going to get second in the MVP and never quite get the MVP? Because every year I feel like it could be Russ, it could be LeBron, it could be this guy. I think James Harden's right there. So it'll be interesting to see, but I do think that Giannis, if we can get a 4 or a 3 seed, possibly could sneak in there too. I'm not 100% sure about the way we're playing right now, but it's a long season. So
I definitely agree with you guys. I think there's some debate about what the MVP really means. Is it valuable players? Is it outstanding player? That also has a huge factor. Let's get into another award. We were talking about a little bit earlier, the Heisman Trophy. Who do you guys have for that?
Right now, I have Baker Mayfield as the runaway winner, sort of like Lamar Jackson last year. I think he really has to screw up not to win it at this point in the season. I think Bryce Love, honestly, he's had such a good season as well. And Rashad Penny is kind of a dark horse. I don't think he'll win it, but second year in a row that San Diego State's had a 2,000-yard rusher. Very impressive there.
Yeah, I have Baker Mayfield winning it as well. He's been having a great season with over 4,000 passing yards. But I really do think that Shaquan ruined his chances in that the Michigan game.
Yep.
I definitely think that if they would have taken it away, no, in the Ohio State game, if they would have taken the Ohio State game away, he would have easily ran away with the Heisman. But if you look at Lamar Jackson has, I think, better numbers this year than he did last year when he won the Heisman. His team's just not as good.
I definitely agree. I think it's Baker by a landslide right now. I don't think there's really a close second. But the one thing I'm interested to see, though, as kind of a hometown Wisconsin fan, if Jonathan Taylor gets like 250 and a couple touchdowns against Ohio State, where does that bump him? Does that get him kind of close, or is that still not enough, do you guys think?
Where I see him right now, he's right at the edge. If he can play an outstanding game, he definitely makes an argument for himself.
For sure.
Yep. Right now, he is 116 yards shy of AP's freshman rushing record for NCAA. So I think he'll definitely hit that. I think he'll break that record against Ohio State.
Oh, for sure. He's definitely, and if not there, he's definitely grabbing it in the bowl game that they go to as well. So he's got plenty of time to get that record. I think Lamar Jackson, he's the only person in the nation with 1,000 rushing and like 3,000 passing yards. He's right around 3,500 passing and 1,500 to 2,000 rushing yards. So just a phenomenal athlete.
Impressive.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to NFL now. We're going to talk about NFL contenders and pretenders. So what do you guys think about the NFL?
I actually think there's way more pretenders than there are contenders. I only think there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that can really win a Super Bowl this year, those being the Patriots, Steelers, Eagles, and Vikings. The Saints are kind of on that edge, but I think teams like the Jaguars, the Rams, Titans, Panthers, Falcons, teams like that, I don't really think they've shown a few games where they've really struggled against some poor teams that I think they're just pretenders. But I do want to throw in that the Packers possibly could be a contender. They will have to win out to make the playoffs, but with Aaron Rodgers coming back, we've seen what he can do. He elevates this team to such a high level. I don't necessarily think they would win a Super Bowl, but they definitely could be thrown in as a dark horse team.
Yeah, so. I have the same exact things. I have the Patriots, Eagles, and Vikings as contenders, and then the pretenders are the Jags and the Panthers. I'm happy the Jags are at 7-4 right now. That actually makes me happy to see they're having a great season. But I just think that, it's like everything. Once you get up against those great defenses and those better offenses, then, your offense has to step up more. The defense has always been there to meet the challenge, but their offense I just don't think will. I think the Eagles right now, with Carson Wentz, I don't think that sophomore slump is a thing for him. Yeah. He's just going to continue to roll, and I just think that they're pretty good contenders, as is Tom Brady, as always.
Again, I think you guys hit it on the head. I think it comes down to the Eagles, Patriots, and Vikings right now. I think the Eagles a little better chance than the Vikings because that quarterback position is a little more sold in, whereas Keenum is playing well, but is Bridgewater going to come in? If he starts not playing well, that's kind of something you don't want to have happen in the playoffs.
True.
And then I think teams like the Jags, like you said, and the Rams will be fun to see in the playoffs and see what they can do, but I just think they're a little too young right now. But I definitely think it's a good look into what the NFL is approaching the next few years.
Yeah.
Kind of same thing, Patriots, Vikings, top teams. Eagles top team too. One thing I want to talk about is the Saints and Panthers. I think they are pretenders. I think the Falcons will take that division. Give them these last 5 games. I think they can do it. Also, you mentioned the Jaguars as a pretender. I like the Jaguars. I think they'll take that AFC South title. Also with the Packers, I understand that people think that Rodgers coming back, they think he'll solve all their problems, but I hate this idea that Rodgers, when he comes back, we're never gonna lose a game again.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we get in this thing like he's injured, that's why we're losing. But
yeah.
I think maybe it exposed some things, but I think he's not the almighty solution to every one of our problems.
No, it definitely seems like it though.
Yeah, we like to think so at least.
All right, so let's move on to NFL MVP. Who's your early front runner for that award?
I have Carson Wentz right now. I think that he's very deserving of it with 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 2,600 yards on the year. And with a 10-1 team as well. It's only the 4th time the Eagles have ever gone 10-1 in the history of Philadelphia. So I think that he's a great candidate for that. on and off the field, I think. I think the MVP is mostly on the field, but, off the field, I think it should help, too. He's going back to his community in North Dakota, and they love him. They support him. So I think that also shows a lot about your character as well. But on the field, definitely Carson Wentz as well.
I agree with that. I think Carson Wentz is the MVP right now for sure. I think the thing is, in the beginning of the season, we were looking at Kareem Hunt, we were looking at Alex Smith, and then they really tailed off early in the season. And I think with Carson Wentz, just showing why he was that number 2 overall pick, that he was worthy of that, and that it wasn't a sophomore slump, and he's showing that he might be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think definitely Carson Wentz for MVP right now.
Yep. Right now, I as well have Carson Wentz. I have another candidate. I have Tom Brady as being another candidate, even though I don't like to put him in the MVP candidation. I think Bill Belichick is more of a MVP candidate than Tom Brady is. I am on the side that Tom Brady is almost a system quarterback. Don't get me wrong, he's very talented, but I don't think he is really the MVP, because I think if he leaves, you saw what they do with Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they still continue to win, so I don't think you can really put him in the MVP consideration. If we're going off actual value, you could throw Rodgers in there. I mean, you see how bad the Packers are playing without him.
Real.
And you said that we kind of just say, he's our saving grace, but I mean, they've just been so bad without him. And with him, I mean, you almost have to think they have to win every game. He's not in the consideration at all, just kind of a thought.
Yeah. You throw Zeke in there as well.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, I think we got to wrap up to another break, so let's take a look at the Comm Club here on campus. Welcome back, guys. We're going to get right back into it. We're going to be talking about biggest surprises this year in sports. What are your guys' so far this year? What's the biggest surprises in these fall sports?
I just have the parity in the NBA. So many teams are kind of not where we expected them. Similar to the Celtics after losing Gordon Hayward. I mean, they're 18-4, I think it is.
Impressive.
The Cavs have struggled. They're on an 8-game win streak now. The Pistons are at the top of the East. The Warriors have not looked as invincible as they have in the past. The Grizzlies started hot, they fell off. Magic started hot, they fell off. So just kind of some parity in the NBA has really been surprising.
I'm going to go into the NFL again, actually, and I'm going to say that the Packers and Broncos probably not making the playoffs is for the first time, I would say, in a while. I'm not sure the exact year, but those are two teams that have always been Super Bowl contenders the past 5 years, it seems, and for them to not really even be in playoff contention right now. The Packers still have a chance if we win out, but like we said, that's kind of a tough thing to do. So I think that's kind of the big story this year is just the teams that you would normally like to see in the playoffs that aren't even contending right now.
No, I definitely agree. I'm very surprised at the Warriors, like you said. I'm surprised at their 15-6 start. They were under 500 at 1-2 for the first time in a very long time. So I'm really happy to see. I really like that. I'm also surprised with the Jags. The Jags are also a surprising team. I mean, like at first I was kind of like they're just joking around. You know, they're not going to be a whole lot of anything. But coming out, I really like the Jags. I think that they're a definite surprise for the fall.
Coming out with Leonard Fournette is definitely having a great season.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
Oh, yeah. My surprise this year was the Rams. Currently at 8-3 right now. They had 4 wins all of last season.
Yep.
They right now they are better than teams like the Seahawks, Cardinals, Falcons, Packers, Cowboys, Raiders, and Chiefs. Never would have, like anybody thought last year, that they'd come back in a season and win and be 8-3 to start off. They've already doubled their amount of wins all last year. So to me, that's the biggest surprise. I think we're seeing teams in the NFL like the Eagles. Nobody would have thought that they would be
10-1, the face of the NFL right
Alone
now.
the best team in the NFL right
As
now.
well as with the Saints. I mean, who would have thought that they would be this good without Drew Brees throwing for 5,000 yards this year? Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram have really stepped up their running game.
Especially after they dropped those early games too.
Yep.
So.
All right, so now we're gonna move into a more like fun segment. We're gonna talk about some cheers, tears, and jeers. So first thing, I want to know if you guys saw this. A kid dressed up as Ben McAdoo at a Giants game. I think we have a picture of it somewhere, if we want to show that. So the kid looks pretty spot on. So
Oh my God.
he's even got his clipboard and everything. That gave me a chuckle. I saw that all over the internet.
And I mean, just look at his serious face too. You know, like I think that's what Ben McAdoo needs to have. Ben McAdoo needs to take a few notes from this kid and get down to business. But he definitely looks like he's disappointed in that game. Looks like he already knows there's a loss coming.
Oh yeah, I think that's the only bright spot in the Giants, whole season so far is this kid right here. So great job to him, definitely.
All right, next thing we got is a Chargers kicker. One of you guys want to talk about that?
Chargers kicker, their kicker got hurt, so their punter had to start warming up to be their kicker the rest of the game. He's warming up at the practice net, and he completely missed the net.
Oh, man.
You just got to feel bad for this guy, because this again was all over the internet. I mean, everyone was trolling this guy. It's just, that's embarrassing.
And I mean, this is something, where a safety could do this. You've seen safeties kick 30, 40-yard field goals before, and you got the punter out here, it's your job to kick a ball, and you still can't get it into the net. That's what, 3-4 yards away from you?
We were talking before the show. They wouldn't even let him kick a 25-yarder. And we might take one of our chances.
We could probably hit
feel
that.
pretty
I
confident.
could
feel
definitely
pretty
take
confident.
one.
in that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, next we got an Alabama basketball team. Anybody want to talk about that?
That was ridiculous, having 7 players ejected, and then I believe just 1 or 2 getting hurt for the game.
One fouled out, I think. And
One fouled
got
out,
hurt.
right.
One got hurt.
Yeah, the performance by Colin Sexton, though, freshman to put up 40 points on a 3-on-5, it was one of the greatest performances I've seen, especially in a loss. So I think it was one of the weirdest things, but also one of the coolest things I've seen.
Well, especially the fact that, you look at the score right there, it's 67-56, and they outscored Minnesota, I'm pretty sure, 32-20, and only ended up losing by 5 points in the game.
Yeah.
So that, Minnesota needs to probably take a little bit of a look at that. I realize that it's something that you don't see, but come on, guys, it's 3-on-5.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think we got not a lot of time, so the last one we got Michael Crabtree and his chain.
Crabtree
Had some woes.
getting his chain taken once again, and
After he taped it down.
if you're going to get into a fight with one player, I think these are 2 players that you think are going to fight. To leave, always get knight at somebody's throat. So not surprising to see these 2 go.
Adds a little bit of adds a little something new to the game. So we're gonna get now to our last topic, and one fix you guys want to have in the sports. What's one fix you have?
I'll start, and I've kind of alluded to it throughout the show with some of the MVP talk. I think that one fix that needs to be fixed throughout sports is the naming of awards, or awarding them correctly. If we're talking about most valuable player, it better be the most valuable player in the league, not someone who just played well.
Which would be, like you said, outstanding. Like Russell Westbrook, valuable but outstanding. LeBron, definitely most valuable.
Yep.
Even going off that, I think one of the things I want to see fixed in sports is this idea of all the hype that certain players get behind them, and if they don't perform in their first 10, 20 games, people will label them a bust. Lonzo Ball, not shooting great at all, but people are already going at his throat saying he's a bust, it was a horrible pick, and it's like, come on, the kid's like 19, 20 years old. Give him a little bit, to actually grow and see where he gets at. I think we're way too quick to judge people's careers in the first couple games.
No, definitely agree with you.
Jordan, I'd love to let you have yours, but
It's
it looks
fine,
like
Albert,
we're out
it's
of time. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next time here on Hot Shot Sports. See you next time.
See, so the